learning portal. So anything that I'm teaching you is straight from the curriculum, is straight from Collaborative Classroom. It can all be found inside the learning portal. If that's something you need access to, just let me know. Drop your name and email address and a little message in the chat, and I'll make sure we get you access to the learning portal. We'll also be viewing the lesson through the learning portal today. It's much easier than trying to hold a book up to you guys or a or a whiteboard up to the screen. I can just pull it up right from here and we can do it the same way. Um, okay, so let's get started. So this particular lesson is going to be on beginning. SIPS beginning is the first level. It generally fits for our kindergarten through first graders, but you may have a couple lower kids for first and third grade. Doesn't happen often, but sometimes we get them to where they don't quite make it an extension review. So they need to drop down to beginning 11. So that this will be the group that has those really low phonics support needs. All right. First off, let's talk quickly about how to give a strong instructional routine. You always want to make sure you're using the 4 C's, clear instruction, make sure you're speaking clearly, best you can. Make sure you're consistent. The lessons are pretty predictable, especially as you go through the different levels. They're pretty predictable, and they're consistent. The information gets a little heavier, but the routines don't change too much. Also, make sure you're concise at some point through this lesson, especially as you get comfortable with it, and this goes through all of the SIPS lessons, as you get comfortable with it, it'll be less teacher talk and more student response. You won't have to talk as much. You can use more of the hand signals and the quick word prompts, and that'll help the students get through that lesson pretty quickly. And then choral responses. That's something that's super important as you're going through beginning, extension, challenge. Doesn't matter what level you're at. That choral response from the students is going to be super important. One, it helps you hear if there's a mistake. So if you'll have to make a correction. It also helps you note who needs the help, because if you do it popcorn, then someone else will already hear someone else say it, and so they'll hear the word or the sound, and it won't be them learning on their own. So when they're doing it together, you'll be able to catch those mistakes and hit those corrections quicker. And also students also learn really well from their peers. So they hear it from you as you model it, but they'll also hear it from their peers just as how to say it as well. So keep those in mind when you're giving instructions. Doesn't matter what level you're on. All 4 of these C's will be super helpful. Quick recap of the components. If you've never done SIPs before, each of them will have, again, a consistent agenda that they follow per lesson. For beginning, you'll be rereading a story initially. It's usually the story that you've done prior to. If this is your first time with the kids doing a lesson, or it's their first time doing SIPs, they generally won't reread the story, but that's usually at an entry point. But the general is reread a story. You'll hit a phonological awareness section, phonics and decodables, sight words. You'll read the news story for the chapter. There's a section which we call whiteboard section for guided spelling and segmentation. And then there's always that fluency practice at the end where they're taking those stories that they learn and read them by themselves independently. I usually call it whisper reading because you want to hear if there's any mistakes. So I usually have a couple of them whisper read to me at a time, just to catch their fluency on that. We'll start off, matter of fact, let me go ahead and pull that up. We'll start off going through each of the routines. We'll skip the reread because the reading part is usually takes the longest, but we'll hit through all of these routines. The first one will be in the phonological awareness section, understanding the units of sound. So let me go ahead and pull up our learning portal section that we're doing today. Excuse me. Here we go. In the chat or off mute, you guys can let me know if you're on edition 3 or edition 4. Are most of you on 4 or on 3? What curriculum do you have? Edition 4 or 3?
I don't know.
I have
Not sure.
4.
Yeah, 4.
I
Anybody
think
else
I
on
actually
4?
have both. I think I may have a little bit of both.
I think I have
There's
both.
there's not much of a change in the materials. Some of the words change, some of the examples or the sayings that they use for the sounds have changed, but it's still the same sounds. They might use a different word or a different sentence, but they're pretty much the same um, across the board. So as long as if you're using 3,
Four.
stick with 3 across the board. Don't switch up to 4 mid year. Same thing with 4. If you're using 4, stick with 4 throughout the whole year. Don't try to switch. Now, if you have a 3 in beginning and a 4 in extension, that's okay. But if you're in the same curriculum, try to stay in that same level or addition if you're gonna use the different levels. We can use 4 for today. If anybody wants to learn how to use this, I have no problem teaching it. I won't do it today because it takes a little minute, but this is the Card Deck app. If you're a tech person or if you like using the smart board, this is perfect for doing your lessons. It will display what you need for your lessons for the kids, and you can run through your whole lessons digitally. You still need your manual, but it's super helpful. I think it makes all of my lessons a lot faster because all of that stuff you would have to write out or print is already available for you here.
Hmm.
In addition, your sounds and your sight words, it tracks for you which ones the group gets wrong. So when you go to do those reviews, you'll know which ones they need to review the next time you do a lesson. But again, I can show this at another time. It's one of my favorite parts of the curriculum, this digital version of the lessons. But again, we're on the beginning, so let's go in here and we'll choose a lesson. Generally in beginning, they'll have that section in the beginning, the LLN, that's the letter learning names, or excuse me, learning letter names section of the curriculum. This is for those kids who don't make it into SIPs when they do their placement test. Those pre-SIPs kids, every one of you guys, each site should have received a kit for this. The curriculum is in that, and it is also in the learning portal. But this is what you would use when you're teaching the kids prior to SIPs if they don't place in SIPs. So all those pre-SIPs babies would use that.
Oh.
Let's scroll down. We're gonna let's do lesson 16. I think that's a good starting point. And then you gotta go back up and save. Let's start with 16. I believe this one has, let me make sure I'm not, oh, no, let's go back and do another one. Sorry. I think 17 has the new sounds. 17 does not have the new sounds. Well, let's go to 21. Sorry. Sorry about that. I change it every time just so everybody sees different versions of the lesson. Let's do 20. I think that's one. Survey says, okay, yes, we got sounds and we got sight words. Great. All right. So, like I said, you still want to use your manual, regardless if you have pre-printed stuff, outlined stuff, short versions of it. You still want to do your manual. The reason why I say that is because um, there are different supports that they include in the manual that help both you and the student. And you want to make sure you're using those and you don't want to skip any of that support because it'll definitely help the kids learn more about what they're doing and more about those lessons. So don't skip any of those things. I'm going to pull up my manual, which again, I'm doing in the learning portal, which I'll show you how to do that really quick if you haven't. Oops, if you haven't done so before. We're using fourth. And you'll find that over here in the digital teacher set. Teacher manual's there. And I'm literally going to use this as if I were in a classroom to go through the manual. It looks exactly like the binders that you have in your classrooms. We're on lesson 21. And so these are the routines we're going to go through for this particular lesson. So you always want to go in, if you have the time beforehand, especially if you're a volunteer, always go and look at what they have in their pre-lesson. It gives you some things you might need to be aware of prior to starting the lesson. If you're the person creating the lesson plan, you definitely want to check this out just to make sure that your volunteers don't need any additional information or they don't need to share something out to the students prior to. But there are a lot of words on the paper, but we'll go through it as if I were given a normal lesson, so you guys will be able to understand it. All right, I'm gonna move this over. Would it be beneficial for you guys to see both the manual and the card deck app? Or does
Yeah.
it matter? Yes? Okay. I want to make sure I'm giving you guys what you need. I'll put both of them on the same screen. You can let me know if you can't see something. All right. So this to move. Hold on. Technical difficulties. It won't let me move my screen. There we go. And we'll zoom in a bit. We are on 21, starting at the beginning. Okay, so normally, like I said, we would do a reread, but we're going to skip it for this one as if they're just starting the lesson. The first thing you're going to do is the phonological awareness part. That's going to be where we're starting our lesson here. They normally tell you what visual cues you're going to use. It's usually in like the corner of the page. And so we are going to use that for this lesson, the three dashes with the lines. These little boxes, these QR codes, if you ever have the book, or if you're in here, you can just click them. But if you have the book, you can use your phone and scan those, and it will show you the routines right there on your phone or on your tablet, whatever you're using to scan it, just in case you're unsure of how those things look. But let's go ahead and start off with the first part of the lesson. Let me know if you can't see something. Is someone talking? Do you have a question? I think somebody just might need to mute. If you have a question, though, feel free to come off of mute. All right, let's get into it. All right, so for the first part of this one, you're not supposed to write anything into the boxes. Make sure those boxes are all clear. You're not writing any letters or anything into them. Very simple. I usually start the lesson by telling the students, you guys are going to be my students. First, you got to listen and wait for me. And then respond together. Always let them know they need to be responding together. Otherwise, you'll get popcorn words or sounds and throughout the lesson. So we're starting off for this particular one. It's going to always give you a script. of what you're supposed to do. It's going to tell you, especially at a starting lesson or entry point, it always tells you, it gives you like a demo of the first couple so you know exactly how to do it. But again, I'm going to go through this so you guys can understand it. All right, let me get my pointer. You guys see my red dot?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to say the parts and you're going to blend them together. I'm going to need a couple of you to be my students. So if you'll come off of mute just so you can respond to me, that'd be great. Add, blend,
Add,
Ed.
id, blend.
hid,
Kid.
Good. Ud, blend.
Mud.
mud,
Nice. D, id, blend.
did,
Did.
And so I'm going to stop here just for a second so I can explain something. So seeing my dot move around, that's exactly how you're going to do it when you're using the whiteboard. You're going to hold it up, you're going to point your finger, and I can stop sharing really quick so you can see what I'm doing. You're going to hold up your whiteboard, place your finger, drag it across just like I did with the dot in the screen. You're going to do the same thing when you're holding paper or if you're holding a whiteboard.
Ryan, hi. It's Esther. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi. I heard what you describe as popcorn responses as we try to do responding. Is it okay? At times I go, you have to wait to respond together, and then I go one, two, three, and then they can join in at that point. How do we get them to do that, Coral? It's really tough for me to get them to do it together. Someone always jumps first, etc.
It's gonna happen,
Uh-huh.
but what you said, you can count them in.
Okay.
I say I use my hands a lot when I do it. I'll say, wait for
Oh,
me,
better, better.
ready,
Right. Nonverbal. Okay.
and
Oh,
just
got
until they
it. I
get
like
used
it.
to it.
Okay.
Initially, they're not gonna be nonverbal. They're gonna be popping off,
No, I
words gonna
meant
be,
my nonverbal. I mean me being
but as they get
nonverbal.
used to it, they'll start
Yeah,
to,
got it.
yeah.
Thank
They get
you.
used to you, you get used to them. But even after you've taught them a billion times,
Mhm.
sometimes you'll have one or two that'll forget. But I usually cue them either with my hands or with my words, or both.
Okay.
Generally, it's both because I want them to get used to my hand movements. That way, when I stop talking, they'll follow my hands.
And
And
I
then
just want to say, yeah, I just want to say to anyone who's new, I've been doing this a long time and I'm still learning. Thank you.
it is a constant learning process. And
Yeah.
like she said, people who've done it for years, you still gotta refresh because there's always some little thing that you can forget just because you're doing it out of routine. Pretty soon it'll become like a muscle memory type thing. But again, remember to keep that manual in front of you because there's some small things that you can forget that are important to have in that. But yes, like Esther was saying, just cue them in some type of way. Even if you have to say one, two, three, go, just until they get used to it. And if they forget, I usually make them restart that word again. Like, oh, you gotta wait for me. Let's try that again. All right. And then they'll,
Esther, that's
Yeah.
what I do as well. I turn around and if the kids aren't listening and following my cues or my prompts, they get to say it over again. If they say it five, six times in a row, guess what? They're gonna
They
get to,
learn quick.
they're gonna learn quick and they're gonna
Yeah.
start going, all right, yeah, and they're all gonna say it together because they're tired of saying the word.
Got it.
exactly.
I love it. Thank you.
Can you guys see the screen again?
Yes.
Okay, great. Pretty easy first part, and we'll do the last one just for kicks. Blend.
Yeah.
10. All right. For a correction for this, because sometimes you will have to, someone will say a wrong sound or someone will blend it wrong. They give you all of that information in the lesson. They just want you to model what the correct response is. So if someone said tin instead of tan, I would just say tan, and then have them do it again. So super easy correction for this section. Any questions before I go on to the next one? Feel free to come off mute. All right, great. Segmentation. It's very similar to the routine we just did, except for this one, you're having them say the word first, and then you're having them sound it. So instead of starting with the sound, we're having them start with the word this time. All right. Same visual cue. Hold on. Oh, there we go. Same visual cue, just like the other one, the 3 dashes and the arrow. The arrow is to show you which direction you're sliding your finger. All right, for this one, I'm going to have you guys say the word, and then you're going to sound it. Make sure you guys are waiting for me and following my point. All right, first word, say ran.
Ran.
Thank you. Sound ran. Good. Next word, say run.
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 Sound run. Quick tip, when you're doing sounds, make sure you're slowing at each of the dashes and dragging that as well, because that'll remind them for like continuous sounds that drag a little bit to hold it for about 2 seconds. If it's a stop sound, you just do that one really quick. Like a T is a good example. So like fat, at, you just do that last one really fast because it's a stop sound. So those continuous sounds you drag a little bit, and the stop sounds you do it quickly. All right, let's do another one. Say fan.
Fan.
Sound fan. Say fun.
Fun.
Sound fun. Say fin.
Fin.
Sound fin. Say fuss.
Fuss.
Sound fuss. Good. Super easy. Again, for those starting lessons, they give you like a little walkthrough of that lesson. So if you scroll down to the instruction part, it'll tell you literally the same thing that I just went through. And it's usually just for those entry lessons that they do that. All right, next thing. If you're in the app, you would click out of it. Now we're on spelling sounds. The good thing about this app, again, you can go in and you can edit your list. They always start off with the first two from the last two sounds from your previous lessons. And you can take out, add, whichever ones you want to add. Generally, they make you do about 10 or 15. So, but we'll do about 8 of them. And as you see, they have that check mark there and the X. It'll count that when you're using the app, how many times they got it wrong or how many times they got it right. That way, when you go back to review, you'll know which ones to set. And then you can shuffle them so they're not in the same order. You always want to shuffle the deck when you're doing review. You never want to start off with the same order, because then they'll just start to memorize the order versus memorizing the sounds. All right, so we got a review deck started. So hold on. Exit. The sound cards that you normally get with them, with your curriculum, this is everything that's on that card. If you don't have your cards, it's not a huge deal, but you will either have to write out those sounds and those sentences, or you can use the deck app. You can also print them out as well from the learning portal. Okay, so let's look at our routine for introducing. Normally they have you present with the sentence, an example sentence. That's what this is. You'll have the student say the new sound, and then you'll discuss the mnemonic. The mnemonic is like the picture in the saying that goes along with the sound. You'll model it twice. You'll model it with them. They'll do it by themselves. About 4 times. So when you're introducing, they're doing that sound multiple times. And when you go to review, they cut it down to about two times. Just FYI. All right, so let's do our new sound. So listen to my sentence. Wear a hat on your head. Wear a hat on your head. Our new sound. Let's look at this is our first word, our new word. And this is the sound. This word is head. This sound is. And you can use whatever color you want, FYI. Multiple colors. But make sure you highlight your word and your sound so they're introducing the word that it's connected to as well. You would do that same thing on your dry erase board and on a piece of paper. You still want to mark it and highlight and separate the word from the sound. Our mnemonic for this one is, it'll show it on the next card. Our mnemonic is hat. Hat. Now I use my hand to teach them that this sound is mostly air. It lets them know that air needs to hit their hand. That way they're not saying, huh. They're saying, you want to make sure you don't make any lazy sounds. If you add that to the end of the consonant or whatever that sound is, it can distort it for when they go to spell it. So make sure you're doing exactly what that sound is and not adding any uhs to the end of those sounds unless they're supposed to be there. This sound is as in hat. My turn. My turn again. Together. Sound. Again. Your turn. Sound. Again. Seems super silly, but the repetition is what helps the kids learn this part. All right, so when it's time to review, you'll have just your sound or on a card or on your whiteboard or however you want to do it. But you always want to make sure you're marking which ones they are not getting correct. And not only that, the ones that they're getting incorrect, you're going to also add back into the stack for that review. When you go to review them, if they get them incorrect, you're going to go back to that mnemonic, reteach it to them. My turn again, my turn, together, your turn. You're going to do that all over again with that sound if they get it incorrect. All right. And for those of you who are new to SIPS, this line behind the U means that sound only happens not at the end of a word. So if it's a closed syllable, that's where you're going to get this sound. And this is always going to be a short U sound, which is up. This line behind means that it's a short sound because this sound does not happen at the end of the word. All right, the routine for review, like I said, it's slightly shorter than the process for teaching. It's in a mixed order, sound, and again. So my students, are you guys ready? We're going to do this really quickly. And remember, we got to do it together. Ready? Sound.
Oh.
One more time. Again.
Oh.
Good. Sound.
Oh.
Again.
Oh.
Good. Sound. Again. I'm going to correct this one only because I heard a lazy sound. This sound is t, as in turtle. T. Sound. Again. And so that's why we do choral, because I was able to hear one person say tuh versus the sound it's supposed to make. That helps you correct when you can hear everybody at the same time. Sound. Again. Sound. Again. Sound. Again. Sound. Again. Sound. Again. All right, so for this last one, I need somebody to get it wrong so I can do a correction for this one as well.
I'll do it.
Sound. This sound is as in at the chair. Sound. Again. Your turn. Again. Good. So we would do incorrect and then add it back to the list. Now, normally you would have more words in between. They don't generally just get the last one wrong, but you would just go back and have them redo this one again. Sound. Again. Good. And that will be done for that one. And then, like I said, if you're using the app, it marks which ones you got wrong and which ones you got right. So you'll be able to go back and mark that later. But also, if you're not using the app, make sure you're marking it somewhere on a piece of paper, who's getting which ones wrong. So you'll know as a group, this particular kid is struggling with short vowel sounds. This particular kid is mixing up M and N, stuff like that. So make sure you're documenting that when you're tracking student success. Even as a volunteer, mark those little things down because it'll be helpful later. All right. Those corrections that I just gave you, literally the same corrections that are right here in the book. Those are the same ones I followed. Don't try to create your own correction if you're not, because it's going to give it to you, and it's going to give it to you the way the kids need to hear it. All right. Our next part is blending. That's our decodable words section. These, again, you'd have to write out. You can print them, or if you're using the Card Deck app, you can use this. This one is pretty simple. You're going to have them sound it 2 times and then read it. I usually have to help them with that routine because generally in school, they read sound instead of sound read. So you'll have some kids read the word immediately after sounding it. It's because that's what they're used to doing in class. So I try to keep them on top of this part by either marking underneath so they know, or I'll use my hands to cue them. Just FYI, it makes it a little easier if you cue them ahead of time. You might have to remind them a couple times, but it's not a huge deal if they do end up reading it first. They don't have to restart. just try to remind them about the routine so they get used to it. All right, let's look at our words. Those same words are in here. If you're using your book, which you should be, it's gonna tell you generally if there's some decoding support that's needed. For this one, it says before the students blend these words, say careful, point to the S. In this word, the sound of the S is Z. Provide the same support when reading has in the new story. So they're giving you that support that a child is going to need because sounds for letters like S, some of them have multiple sounds. And you'll need to provide that support up in advance so there's no confusion. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Again, students, we got to stay together. Wait for me. For this one, we're going to sound it 2 times and then read. So sound 2 times and then read. All right, let me get my pointer. We ready? All right, sound. First one, sound. Again, read.
Fan.
Sound. Read. I did that wrong. That was my fault. Now, the kids will call you out if you mess up. I'm just going to let you know. Don't feel any type of way about it, but they will call you out, especially if they're used to it. They're like, hey, wait, you're supposed to sound it twice. And I tell them, I was just seeing if you were checking. I was testing you. And then they'll start laughing. But anyway, sound. Again. Read.
Tin.
Good. Sound. Again. Read.
Kit.
Sound. Again. Read.
Fit.
Awesome. We'll skip down. Will someone give me a wrong sound for this one? Sound. Okay, so for this one, I think I heard maybe the middle sound. This sound is ah. And then when we go to our cards, ah, as in at the chair. Sound. Good. Close this, go back to it. Sound. Ah. Start here. Sound. Read.
Pan.
And so you don't have to tell them, oh, somebody got it wrong. Just immediately go to the correction if they make a mistake. Pull up that card, pull up that mnemonic. This sound is as in at the chair, and go right into it. And then when you do a correction, you always want to go back to the beginning and start it again. All right, next one. Sound.
Z.
So this is Z. Careful, this sound is Z. Sound.
Z.
Again.
Z.
Good. Read.
Has.
Perfect. And then that would be decodables. They usually give you about 8 to 10 of those. When you get in the higher levels, they give you more. There can be about 20 of them, I think. But that's the gist of that part of the lesson. They give you that same correction. You're modeling how to do the sounds. If it's a blending issue, like they sounded it just fine, but they blended it wrong, you just remodel it and have them say it with you. So together, sound. Again, read. For sound corrections, you'll do what I just showed you. You'll pull up that mnemonic, show them the picture of the sound, have them repeat it, model it for them, and then go back into the word. Next section, sight words. This one has the same premise as the sounds. You'll be able to choose a few of them. I always go for the ones that I know they are having trouble with. If it's something they've mastered already, if everybody knows yes, you don't have to keep putting yes back into the rotation. If everybody knows ah, you don't have to keep putting ah back into the rotation. The only time I would add it back is if they went from short to long, just to help them practice the difference in between the two. But that doesn't happen until a little later into the chapters. But again, 10 to 15, maybe 10 to 20, depending on how fast the group is. You always want to shuffle them just like the sounds. This is also going to keep track just like the sounds did in the app. Otherwise, make sure you're documenting it somewhere. If everybody's getting yes wrong, put yes back into the rotation. If you have a couple people getting get wrong, add get back into the rotation. All right, so for the words, again, always check your manual for instructions. You're going to introduce a sentence. For this one, you read, spell, read, spell, read. That's 5 tasks. Anytime you're introducing a sight word, even if you're introducing it to them outside of SIPs, your best bet is to do a read, spell, read situation. You never want to have them sound out a sight word. Never, ever, 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 ever. The reason for this is most sight words do not follow the normal rules of words and sounds. If you sound them out, you will have the students super confused.
Mhm.
I have a couple that are precepts that if the sound in C, hold on, this thing is in the way, I can't read it. C and then let's see. And then they say, oh yeah, absolutely. The sound will be for C, and then they'll say it completely different. I've had that done in tests. I'm reading what's in the chat, by the way. The blending is a completely different word. It always baffles me during testing, mastery tests when they do that. I'm like, you didn't even use those same letters. How did you get dog from C? It happens all the time. But you just have to go back and have them slowly do the word again, and that should help with that correction. Okay, so back into our sight words. Again, you'll get a card with the word, there's a sentence. So for starting our lesson, we only have one for this one, but sometimes you'll have 3 or 4 sight words depending on the chapter. Always start off with your sentence. It was cold outside, but it wasn't raining. They've already underlined this one for me. This word is wasn't. For this one, again, no sounding out. If they try to go and sound out, make them go back and do it again. Sometimes I have to tell them the difference between reading and spelling. It happens every time I've done this lesson, at least one kid. I have to remind them what I mean when I say read and spell. So if they spell instead of read, tell them, when I say read, I mean, tell me the word that's on the page. If they read instead of spell, tell them, I want you to tell me the letters that I point to. So just give them exactly what the instruction is if they're making a mistake. All right.
That again.
You have a question? I heard somebody say something.
Yeah.
Oh, no? Okay. All right, our new word is wasn't. Read,
Wasn't.
spell,
WASN apostrophe T.
Now for the younger kids, I make a big deal out of the apostrophe because they'll forget it if you don't. So for example, we'll do wasn't, and then I'll spell with them WASN apostrophe T. I'll put my finger up and make a big show of it so they just remember in their head that there's an apostrophe there. And even when I'm not saying it with them, I'll still throw my finger up so they'll know that there's an apostrophe there. You can do that however you want to, just to signify that for them. Read,
Wasn't.
spell,
WASN N apostrophe T.
T.
Read.
Wasn't.
All right, that was our new one. All right, now let's review some of the words that we learned before. Ready? Read.
She.
Spell.
S-H-E.
Read.
She.
Read.
Two.
Spell.
T-O.
Read.
Two.
As you get into this routine, it can go really fast depending on what kids you have. Feel free if anybody wants to get one wrong in this process, hop in with it and we'll go through and I'll show you how to do a correction. Read.
Wasn't.
Spell.
W-A-S-N-T.
Apostrophe T. Okay, so this word is wasn't, but remember this one has an apostrophe in it because this word is was not, and that apostrophe replaces that O. Read.
Wasn't.
Spell.
W-A-S-N
Apostrophe T.
T.
Read.
Wasn't.
Spell.
W-A-S-N apostrophe T.
Read.
Wasn't.
Okay, and then again, since we got that one wrong, we'll do incorrect and it'll pop it back into our list at the end. All right, ready? Read.
Isn't.
Spell.
I-S-N apostrophe T.
Good. Read.
Isn't.
Read.
Can't.
Spell.
C-A-N apostrophe T.
Good. Read. Excuse me. Spell.
C-A-N apostrophe T.
Read.
Can't.
Did somebody ask a question? Okay, sorry. I just wanted to make sure. I thought I heard something else. Read.
Yes.
Spell.
Y-E-S.
Read.
Yes.
And we'll skip through a couple. Read.
Was.
Spell.
W-A-S.
Read.
E.
Spell.
H-E.
Read.
He.
Read.
Under.
Spell.
U-N-D-E-R.
Read.
Under.
Good. Read.
R.
Spell.
A-R-E.
Read.
R.
We're going to come back to this one. Read.
Wasn't.
Spell.
W-A-S-N apostrophe T.
Good. Read.
Wasn't.
Good. So another thing, I think I said this earlier, but I wanted to reiterate it. If they ever get it wrong, they ever get a sight word wrong, never have them figure it out. Don't tell them you know what that is, or think about it, or any of that nature. Just tell them what the word is immediately. They get it wrong. They say once instead of wasn't, or want instead of wasn't. Say this word is wasn't, and go right into the read, spell, read. Never delay, never wait, never have them try to figure it out. Just tell them the word because they're supposed to know it by sight. And when you do your mastery tests, they've got like 2 seconds, 5 seconds max to figure out that word. And if they don't, then that means they don't know it well enough. And they're supposed to be able to know it by sight. So if they get it wrong, immediately give it to them the right way. Okay, we got that one correct. We're done. Again, it tracks it for you. If you're not using the app, then make sure you are marking this somewhere. The previous lesson's word always goes into the next lesson. Even if they know it, add it back. The other ones you can drop out as you please. But if you're on lesson 21 and then tomorrow you do 22, make sure that one from 21 ends up in 22. Just for practice. All right. Next part, we just did our review. Again, if you're in an entry lesson, it's got the instructions, read, spell, read, what the student is expected to say. All of that is in there. The next thing you're supposed to do is read a story. Now, these kids are lesson 21. So at this point, you might be doing this slightly different, but it'll tell you each level how you're supposed to be doing this section with them. Because early on, you're literally sounding out and reading every sight word in the story. But as you get, excuse me, into the further lessons, you may have them read it in their head and then read together. But all of this is still choral reading. So for this one, it says, for the first reading of a sentence in the story, for all decodable words, you're going to sound and then read. For sight words at the beginning of the sentence, read. And for sight words that follow, just sweep under the word. For the reread of a sentence in a story, read for the first word in the sentence and then sweep under all the words that follow. So basically what they're saying is when you first read the sentence with the kids, you're going to have them sound out every word and read every sight word. And then when you have them go through it, you're just going to swipe through. And I'll show you how to do that. We won't go through the whole story because this is probably the longest part of the whole lesson, aside from maybe guided spelling. But we won't go through the whole story. We'll just do parts of the story. And if you're in the learning portal, a great thing about it is that you'll be able to go in and find all your printables here, including your stories. So if for some reason you don't have enough books or you don't have any books at all, you can find printable versions. I like to do this anyway, because then I can send this home with the kids. So they can get the previous story, they can get the current story and the story after, and practice them at home. I also like to send these over breaks as well, especially if they're going to be gone for like 2 weeks, like for winter break. I'll give them the next couple stories that they can take home and maybe a couple previous stories. So if they want some extra reading, a lot of the time parents will ask for stuff like that. But these are all printable from the learning portal. The whole stories book is printable in the resource sources in here. You'll be able to find the sound cards and even the full storybook within these printable documents. And your another thing I did not mention, but I showed it to you for correction. During your lesson, you want to make sure you have your sound walls, your sound card. I'm not saying this right. Your sound card wall. It's a printable paper you can get out of your binders, or you can go into the learning portal and print it as well. Also, your sight word index, you'll need that for guided spelling. It's literally just a paper that shows all of the sight words. There's one specifically for the students in here, depending on what lessons you're at. Each student can get one of these, or you can keep one that you have laminated that you can give to each mentor to use for lessons. But you always want to have this at the table. That's your sight word dictionary and your spelling sound wall cards. That's these. It's got the picture of the mnemonic and the sound. That way, when you're doing correction, you don't have to go dig out that card. It's all on this one sheet, and you can just refer to this. Especially if you're reading, you don't necessarily have those cards next to you, especially a card for every sound. But this sheet will have it. Just print it two-sided, and you'll be able to use this throughout your lesson. Again, each kid can have their own, or you can have one that you use per mentor that's laminated. But you should always have these. I think Extension has one as well, and Challenge has something similar. but you should always have these during your lessons, your sight word dictionaries and your sound cards. I had mine on the card deck app in that little couch that it had in the corner of the page. I have mine in that version. But FYI, make sure you have that during each lesson. Okay, so for reading a story, it gives you a little background information always. Again, make sure you're using your manual because there's always some type of support. In this one, they want you to note that they want you to note a comma and explain how it's being used as far as punctuation. So like pause. I just tell them to use it as a breath in the story. When you're doing stories in your manual, you have a version of the story printed as well. Again, it's super important to have your manual because at some point, all these underlined words that you see in here, those are sight words. At some point, those lines disappear for the students, but they don't disappear for you. And that way, if a student were to mess up on a sight word, you'll already know on your copy that, I don't know, can is a sight word. If they mess up can in the higher levels, it could just be a slip of the tongue. But if for some reason they're messing up that word at the point where there are no underlines, they might need to go back and review some of those early on phonics skills. But again, sometimes these lines disappear on their version, but you'll be able to see them on your side. So you know how to provide that correction. Okay. So in your version, it always gives you a quick introduction. There's like a brief intro you do to each story. For this one, it tells you exactly what you're supposed to say. But for this, it says, this story is about what happens to a man's hat. Very simple. Sometimes after the story, there'll be questions that you can ask them. Why is this looking really strange? Sometimes there'll be questions. This one has a couple. But it's just like the 3 comprehension questions at the end of the story. Like we said, SIPS doesn't give a lot of comprehension. This is literally all the comprehension you're going to get at SIPS is 3 questions, just to check to see if they were paying attention. But we do generally do those. Don't skip them. All right. So let's go into our story. Oh, excuse me. Again, it's got that instruction for you if you need it for entry levels. But let's get into our story. You guys are going to read for me. We'll do the first couple sentences just so you guys see how it's done. Let me get my pointer. Sorry, I don't know where my pointer went. Hang on. Where did you go? Let me stop sharing, then I'll share again because my pointer went away and I need that. Okay, here we go. All right, there it is. All right, everybody can see my red dot on the story?
Yes.
Okay, great. So you always start off with the title. Sometimes they have a book, sometimes they don't. All right, ready? I usually tell them in the beginning, we're going to stay together. You're going to use your finger to follow along, and we're going to read this together. So wait for me. These underlined words are sight words, so we're just going to read those. The other words, we're going to sound those out. Let me make sure I'm telling you the correct thing. This is why we have our manual. Sorry, give me a second. This thing is being weird. We don't have templates. Hmm. Okay, now it's back to normal. Okay, great. We are doing it the right way. All right, so the underlined words we're just going to read. The ones that are not underlined, we're going to sound and then read. You guys ready? All right, ready? Read.
The
Sound.
N,
Read.
fan,
Read.
and
Read.
the
Sound. Read.
hat,
Now we're going to go straight through. Ready? Read.
the fan, and the hat.
So you will literally go through the whole story like that, usually in the earlier levels. If you're like lesson 1 through 10, you're spell reading every sight word and reading and sounding out every word. And it is a lot, but it helps the kids get used to doing it on their own. Once they learn that skill to do it on their own and in their heads, then you'll release that control to them, and then they'll just be reading with you. All right, I always have them check the picture. Let's check our picture. This thing that he's sitting on is called a mat. It's something you sit down on the floor. Ready? Read.
Can,
Sound. Read.
Sam,
Sound.
it,
Read.
sit,
Read.
on, the,
Good. Sound.
at,
Read.
mat,
And this is a question mark, so we're going to say that like a question. Matt.
mat,
Read.
can, Sam, sit on the mat.
Good. And so just FYI, some of you guys sound like you're reading the same, some of you can't. I'm pretty sure it's because of the Zoom. But normally if they were popcorn reading like that, I would make them stop and fix that. All right, ready? Read.
Yes,
He
he
is
on the
Sound.
mat.
Sound.
At.
Mm. Read.
Mat.
Read.
Yes, he is on the mat.
It'll take them a couple tries to get used to the routine. So don't stress about it if the first couple they're forgetting to read and sound. Just remind them, well, wait, we got to sound this one first. Remember, we're sounding the ones that are not underlined first, and then go through it. Let's do one more section and then we'll be done. Let's check our picture first. We got 2 friends in this picture on our mat. All right, ready? Read.
Is
Sound. Read.
And
Quick tip, when you see 2 consonants like that, you don't have to separate the sound. You just drag it longer. So for this one, it will be an. Instead of you just drag the sound. All right, let's start back at this again. Read.
is
Sound. Read.
and
Good. Sound.
Try
that one again.
Eh.
Read.
in
Read.
the
Sound.
n
Read.
tan
Sound.
at
Read.
mat
Go back to the front of that. Read.
is an in the tan mat.
Good. Read.
No, she is on
Sound.
it.
Read.
It.
Go back.
No, she is on it.
Perfect. And you would go through the whole story like that.
Wow.
We are not going to do that now. You'll notice if you've never done SIPs before that it's a little bit more tedious and boring for us than it is for the kids. It's a little mind numbing for us than it is for the kids because most of us didn't learn this way. So it feels like droning. But keep the excitement because if you keep the excitement, so will they. Let's go on to the next part. I won't ask you the questions only because we didn't finish the story.
Did you?
But normally, after you were done with the story, you would ask those 3 questions at the end.
I'm sorry. Did you see my question in the chat?
I didn't. What was your question?
So if the kids can read it on their own, do you think that they are placed in the wrong group then?
It depends. Because it's not just about can they read what's on the page, it's are they able to break down the words too. So if they're struggling with the sounds and everything before that, then not necessarily.
Right, because sometimes I feel like they can read it, but then they actually have decoding or blending issues, and so then they should be
Right.
there, but then they get really bored if I read the story like we just did.
Yeah, if it's the decoding issues, have them do it anyway because they have to pick up that skill. And I always tell them, I know it sounds weird, guys, but we're just practicing it so you guys can pick up the skill and then you'll be able to blow through it in the next couple of lessons. But you can always retest them at any point if it feels really easy for them because keep in mind, we're not the only ones teaching them. They're learning
Right.
at home, hopefully they're learning at home. They're learning at school, they're learning from interacting with others, and they're learning from us. So, and some of them are also getting tutoring outside of the classroom. So they may be starting off at, say, beginning level 10, but in a couple weeks, 2, 3 weeks, they may be ready to be in beginning 40. You just won't know until you test them. And you don't have to necessarily wait until the end of the mastery schedule if it seems way too easy for them.
Sounds great.
Cool. Any other questions about that before I move past to the next section? Okay, great. Yeah, come off of mute if you have a question, because once I close the chat, I can't see it anymore. All right, so our next section is guided spelling. For this part, you have options. You can either use the printed papers, have them use lined paper or that handwriting tracing paper, or you can use this version where it's got like if you have kids that struggle with actual handwriting, you can use the pre-printed ones that have the dotted words on it, or you can use dry erase markers. I usually stick to the dry erase stuff to the older kids only because there are kids that are struggling with handwriting, and I keep these that way I can track that because sometimes that's how you find out that a kid might have dyslexia or if they're playing a new game in school where they're just writing everything backwards and or something crazy like that, or if they're mixing up letters, the easiest way to do that is to catch it in their writing. And if you're having those younger kids do it, like first grade, kindergarten, even sometimes second grade, you can catch that stuff and you just keep it and put it in their folder just like you would do any of their other work. And you can share that at the end of the year, or you can trash it however you want to do it. But I use it to keep track of how their writing is doing. And if they're making any technique mistakes. So for guided spelling, this is our next part. You will need either however they're going to write, dry erase board or paper or whatever. You'll also need visual cues for this. And you'll need those sound ones that we used earlier, which are the dashes. And you'll need these boxes. And if you're using the printed materials, it'll tell you right at the bottom what exactly they're for. This one says dictation of decodable words 1 and 2. And this one says sentence dictation. That is all in here when you're supposed to use it. It's right there in the manual. So another reason to keep your manual in front of you. Also, when you start getting into schwas and syllables, it's important to have the manual because I myself, ostrich is a really good example. Where to split that word for a syllable can be tricky because of that T and that R. If you're not reading your manual, I've done it in the middle of a training. I've messed it up in the middle of a training. So make sure you're looking at your manual so you know where to split those words. And it's great for people who are not just generally academics. They're not in front of kids all day or teaching in some type of manner. So like your high school students, if they're helping, or your retirees that weren't teachers, that information is perfect for them because it helps them figure that out without having to think about it on their own. But anyway, let's get into guided spelling. For preparation, again, you're going to make sure they have either the photocopies of the line papers, a blank sheet of paper, or a dry erase board and markers. I don't have a preference. Whatever works for you and your students. It is separated into sections, just like mentioned before. The first section is generally decodable words. That's words that they can sound out. The second section is usually the sight words. Those are words they cannot sound out, and you will need your sight word dictionary for that part. That should always be on the table when you're doing sentence dictation. And then the last part is a combination of both your decodable words and your sight words in a sentence. And for that, you'll use this 3-box one or 4-box, depending on how big your sentence is. It's literally matched for each word you're going to use. All right, so let's start off with the first part of the sentence. For this one, I always let them know this is not a test. This is something we're going to work together to do. It's called guided spelling because we're working together. You may have those kids that are like, oh my gosh, they're looking at my paper. It's not that serious. You're allowed to look at each other's paper. You're allowed to help each other. We'll be using the dictionary, sight word dictionary, and the sound card sheet for help as well. So give them that information in advance. 2, again, using your manual because it's giving you spelling support. They mentioned this before with has. We're gonna have to go back and let them know that Z sound happens for the S in has and his. So when we hit those words, we want to make sure we're giving them that support. Also within the manual, sometimes they will have, let's see if they have it in this one. They do not in this one. I'll go back and show you another one that has it. It's usually in the higher levels. This one's still kind of early, but I'll go back and show you what I'm talking about. But they'll have support in the section. So I think it's when they start getting into the ones that go all the way up to 7, because we're still early in the lessons. This one only goes up to 3, but when you get further in, you'll go all the way up to I think it's about 4 decodable words, and then they do 2 sight words, and then the last one is a sentence. So you'll get multiple opportunities to practice with the kids. And in that one, when you start getting into those sounds that either have blends or those words that have multiple spellings for a sound, like the E sound or the eh sound, sometimes there's multiple spellings for some of those. And that support ends up in here, and I can show you that later. It's really prevalent in the extension sections because at that point, they're already hitting those larger words and they're hitting more syllables. It happens in beginning, but it's further in the levels, but extension, you'll see it more often because you're using higher words, especially once you get out of extension review. But I can show you more about that in the extension training as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this part. I'm going to use my pen because we are modeling both writing and spelling in this one. Excuse my slight lisp. My cheek is still swollen. All right, we're gonna use a fun color. Let's go with pink. All right. So for this one, again, it's giving you the instructions. You're using your manual, so you're already checking for these instructions. The routine is always first. For this one, you're gonna give them a sentence. Sometimes they give you one, sometimes you gotta make it up yourself. But you'll have them say the sentence and the word. You'll have them sound the word because we're in the decodable ones, 1 and 2. Ask them what the first sound is. Have them write it. Ask them what the word is again. Ask them what the first sound is, the second sound. Ask them what the word is again. And then you're gonna go through it just like that. But I'll show you what it looks like in real time. So you're not just hearing me rattle it off. But give feedback. This is a good reason why you're having them write it, so you can watch what they're doing. And see if they're missing anything or getting anything wrong. Backwards letters, upside down letters, any of that, you can correct that in real time. Point it out and have them fix it. Or you can even write it out for them, so you're not calling out a specific student to avoid embarrassment. So if they're writing the N backwards, remember your N is written like this, and then you write it right on your board and show it to them. That way they can fix whatever they need to fix. All right, so let's get into the first part. We're gonna go straight through this one since it's only 3. We'll do all 3 of them. It's gonna let me type. Okay, cool. Okay, so for this one, you will now write 2 words on line 1 and 2. These are gonna be all words that you can sound out. So for number 1, fit. The old shoes didn't fit anymore. Say fit. And then you guys would say fit. Sound fit. And that's where we would have our lines. Or I'll put them here since I don't have the screen up. Sound fit. It. All right. What's the first sound? Go ahead and write for number 1. And then they will write it on their paper. What was our word again? Fit. First sound. Next sound. I. Go ahead and write I next to in number 1. No finger space because this is one word. What was our word? Fit. First sound. Next sound. I. Last sound. T. Go ahead and write T. Okay. Read what you wrote. Fit. First sound. Next sound. Last sound. Check your work. If you made a mistake, cross out the mistake and rewrite it on the top. So if they put like an E here or an A, they can correct it and put the correction up here, or they can rewrite the whole word up here, however you want to have them do it. I don't care either way. So if this was an ear or something, they would just redo it up there. All right, number 2. That hat is too big. Say hat. Hat. Sound hat. At. First sound. Go ahead and write for number 2. And remember, you're not saying this with them. They're doing it by themselves. I'm just doing it because I don't have a student. But if somebody wants to be my student, feel free to respond. What word are we writing? Hat. First sound. Next sound. Ah. Right ah. They would write ah. What was our word? Hat. First sound. Next sound. Ah. Last sound. T. Go ahead and write t. What word do we write? Hat. First sound. Next sound. Ah. Last sound. T. Check your work. All right, great. Our last one is a sentence. So let's first listen to my sentence. Remember to stay with me. Don't write ahead. She has it. Say she has it. She has it. Okay, what's our first word? She. All right, she is a sight word and it is the first word in our sentence. What do we do to the first letter in a word in our sentence? Capitalize it. All right. So if you're unsure how to spell she, check your sight word dictionary. Write she for number 3. And so this is why
Don't
we have our
blend
sight
that
word
one.
dictionary. Say that again.
And don't blend that one. She has it.
Oh yeah, no, we're not blending.
Because it spells a bad word.
Oh. All right, what was that word? She. Spell it. S-H-E. Read she. All right, what was our sentence? She has it. First word, she. Next word, has. Now, remember, be very careful that Z sound at the end of has is an S. That's spelled with an S. First sound, right? Next sound, ah, right? Ah. Last sound, Z, right? S for Z. What word do we write? Has. What was our sentence? She has it. First word, she. Second word, has. Last word, it. All right, first sound for it, I, right? I. What was our word? It. First sound, I. Next sound, t, right? T. What word do we spell? It. All right, at the end of a sentence, what do we use? Punctuation. That should be the response. If they say period or question mark, always say, you can say yes, but also let them know it's punctuation because sometimes it will be a question. So it won't always be a period. So we use punctuation at the end of our sentence. For this one, it's just a statement. So we're going to use a period. All right. All right. What was our sentence? She has it. First word, spell S-H-E. She. Next word, sound. A. What was that word? Has. Last word, it. Sound. It. What was the word? It. Perfect. What do we do at the end? Period. Check your work. All right, good. That's all for guided spelling. Again, it's longer if you're further in the lesson, but generally in beginning it starts off like this. Keep the paper, have them hand up those whiteboards, however you want to do it. Give someone a job, they can collect the whiteboards and the markers, whichever. And again, those cues are listed in here. It's going to tell you to use them. And for that first entry level, it's going to go through each part of that so you can read it word for word. Last part of the lesson, do not skip this. It is the fluency practice section. This part you can do, while you're writing down your tracking. While you're writing down your notes from that lesson, have them whisper read the 2 stories that they had twice. You can do it more times if you want, but at least books 21, 20, and 19 should be read aloud 1 to 2 times. Whisper reading. You're going to want to stop and listen to each one of the students too, just to check to see if they're getting the words right and they're using those skills. But it is also a good time for you to write your notes down from the lesson because you want to make sure you're tracking every lesson physically. There should be some type of documentation, not just writing down they did lesson 21. You need to, if some student is struggling with sounds or words, or if nobody had any issues, document that stuff because when you go to lesson plan, it'll be easier for you to go back and look at those and justify why that student has moved up or moved behind or however you want to do it. But that's the gist of a lesson. That's pretty much it. Generally a lesson will take about 30 minutes. And that's because of the reading and all of that. It makes it drag on just a little bit longer. That and the guided spelling. But behavior can also determine how long your lesson goes. If you're new at it, if the students are new at it, sometimes it'll determine how long the lesson goes. So don't feel like crazy if it's taking you like an hour to do it or 45 minutes. Sometimes that just happens. Does anybody have any questions before I go on to the next thing? Okay. So while we're here and we're looking at beginning, I'm going to go into the portal and show you guys some things. So like I said before, all your printables are here. Practice stories, your sight word dictionaries, the guided spelling sheets with or without the dotted letters, your spelling sound cards, both in color and black and white. You also have your sight word index, letters to families, support letters to families, both in English and Spanish, fluency recorder. So if you're record, so if you're doing those short reads with the kids while where they're doing the fluency and reading to you, whisper reading, you can either use this or you can do something on another tracker sheet, however you want, but they do provide materials for this. Replacement pages for lessons. So if you have version 3, you can go in and just print those replacement lessons just for section 4 to replace in your book if you want to. But those updated sections, you can print them straight from here to add to your binder, to your manual binder. You can also find your assessments in here. I'm going to open that up really quick. I'll be doing another, like one of those 20-minute recording trainings for this, but I'm going to show you something really quick for these. When you're doing your mastery test, always check next to the mastery number which lessons it's applying to. So if they've just finished lessons 1 through 10, they should be doing lesson mastery 1. If they've just finished lesson 55, they should be doing mastery 6. So pay attention to all of that. Also, I can't remember who asked about the student being able to read it earlier, but another thing you can pay attention to when it comes to that is when you're doing those masteries, checking specifically what they're missing, because they may fail a mastery because of one thing, and you might just need to go back and teach that one thing and then remastery test them. But if they're missing they're missing like 50% of the stuff or more, then you'll probably need to teach the whole lessons. But if it's only like a couple things that they're missing, you can just reteach that and then remastery test them. But you'll know based on how well they're doing in the lessons. So keep an eye on those things. What else? Progress tracking. This is really important as well. If you don't have a standard tracking sheet, these are really good to use because not only do they list per section what the objective is, but they also have a spot in here for you to drop notes in. So if this is group 4's sheet, you can mark who's missing things in group 4, or if the whole group has gotten each of these sections checked off. Or you can do it per student. You don't have to create your own tracking sheet. These are really good to use for SIPs. You still need to track the other stuff too, like comprehension and all of that. But for SIPs specifically, this is a good progress tracker. And it's provided right there on the in the portal. And they have it per level. They also have information to prepare you for it and to prepare the students for it. It has like a little blurb you can tell them about. Also, reflection tools. So if you're new at this, and even if you're not new at this, there are tons of reflection tools in here just to check to see if you're doing your due diligence in teaching these properly. Got questions for you. It's got things you should be looking out for. That way you can check yourself, or if you're a supervisor or coordinator, you can check your mentors if they're doing SIPs to make sure they're doing it properly. It's always good at least a couple times a year to step away from the SIPs portion. If you have other people doing it, step away from it just so you can observe them to make sure they're doing it correctly. Because the coordinator generally does this Monday through Thursday, insert how many days of school you have. But a volunteer may not. They may only come once or twice a week or once or twice a month. And may need that extra observation just to make sure they're following the instructions properly. Observation tools, self-reflection tools. Again, if you need those cards, you can make your own flashcards
What's in this? It's
by printing them from here
It's too long.
if you want them. Or you can write all the stuff out, but you can print all these cards out and make flashcards. Sound cards as well. You can print all this stuff out, laminate it. Please prepare yourself for a lesson. If you do not prepare yourself for the lesson and set yourself up for success, it will take a lot longer to complete a lesson. I used to do 4 lessons in an hour and a half setting. And that's because I was blowing through them like that, even with corrections, even with guided spelling, even with reading. It can be done. You just have to make sure, one, you're set up for success. You have all your materials with you and ready. And that you set your kids up for success by giving them expectations and guidance throughout. Another good item is the pronunciation guide. This is helpful, especially for your non-education peeps. It helps them pronounce some of these new sounds that they're maybe not used to seeing segmented. Most of us have seen a lot of these letters together in words, but never thought about what they would sound like by themselves. So there are a bunch of examples of where you can get those sounds from. It'd be great if you're training mentors and volunteers how to support them with these sounds. You can also send these home, especially for ESOL students. These are great to send home. For your precepts babies, I mentioned that letter learning names section. That's all here. The printables for that are here, but you also should have the physical set for those at your sites now. There's also an assessment for that. So if you have a precepts baby that doesn't make it into beginning, you're not just willy-nilly teaching them letters. There's a whole process for that, and you also need to assess them. There is a spot in ounce where you can enter in these assessments as well, just to make sure that these kids are being tested before you drop them back into SIPs. But this is the assessment here. And that's for your early kids when they don't place in the SIPs. There's also something in here called Trace and Write. This is the multi-sensory instruction section. This is for extra practice. You can also use this during your lessons as well, but it allows them to practice writing the sounds and the sight words. Same thing in here. They can write down all of their sounds and keep track of them. So this is like if they have their own binder and they're learning new sounds, you can have them writing them out themselves and practicing them out daily or each class. Same thing for sight words. That way they're physically writing them and practicing with them. So you could post those sounds and sight words, and as an exit ticket, they could write those out and practice them before they leave. Just example of ways you can use these. And then also those sound cues, they come in different sizes depending on what words you're working with. Those are all printable here. And so are the ones with the sound lines. So all the materials are available to you online. A lot of these are also available to you in your binder, but I think for printing purposes, because it's not always easy to copy from the binder, online, you should have access to this and you'll be able to get in. For those of you who like to project things and aren't really too interested in setting up the Card Depth app, there's also versions of the cards you can just post in here.
Too much information.
There's a presentation tool. There are different ways you can do this. I think they have it for the sight words too. Yeah. So you could do it this way instead of using the Card Deck app if you're using like a tablet or a board. And ClassView Pro, that's a whole nother training. That's how you get set up for the Card Deck app, which allows you to do your lesson through here. And that's a whole nother training. I'll show you that on another day. But I think, oh, there's also the assessment cards. You can print those individually in here too. When you're giving the assessments, the student should never see the test part. They should only get these student cards, FYI. Any other questions about SIPs before I let you guys go? Need me to run through anything else? Any other routines? Okay. Thank you so much for working with me today. I should be fully not numb tomorrow, so it should go a little bit better. And we'll have those other two trainings. If you guys are interested, it's extension and challenge are tomorrow. I also have an open session. So if there's anything you have a question about as far as Y-Reads, whether it's iReady, RAS Plus, program functionality, any of that stuff, if you have any questions, family engagement, any of that, you can hop on for that session and I'll answer any open questions and walk through whatever you guys need help with. Deliverables too, any questions you might have. Or even if it's like a scenario you're going through with one of your kids or something, you can hop on tomorrow. The schedule for that, I think I sent it out earlier in that email, but just in case, the challenge one is at 11:30 tomorrow. Extension is at 2, and that open session is at 4. I'll also have
Oh,
a couple training blocks available for the 29th and 30th if anybody wants additional training on anything. But if I don't see you tomorrow, have a happy holiday. And I will see you guys next meeting.
thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks, Ryan. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah.
We're done. Left. Zoom. End.